Hey there, fellow soul searchers and curious minds. Before we dive into the main topic, I'd love to share a little story with you. There once was a man so lazy that the people in his village got tired of feeding him. He wouldn't work. He wouldn't help. He just did nothing. Eventually, the villagers said, "We can't keep doing this." So they put him on a cart and decided to take him to the cemetery. On the way, they met a wealthy merchant. "Where are you taking him?" the merchant asked. "This man is too lazy to work," they replied, "and we don't have enough food to keep feeding him." The merchant felt sorry for him. "Don't bury him," he said. "I'll give him a whole wagon of dried apples. He can eat and live." The lazy man slowly lifted his head. "Are the apples peeled and sliced?" he asked. "No," said the merchant. The man sighed, lay back down, and said, "Then, keep going." We laugh at this story, but are we really that different? As you can probably guess, today we're talking about laziness. People often say that laziness actually moves the world forward. Think about it. Someone didn't want to do something the hard way, so they invented tools, machines, systems, things that could do the work for them. And honestly, that's probably true. But is laziness always a good thing? Let's talk about it. Or more specifically, how do we actually move toward our dreams? How do we grow? How do we keep moving instead of just lying on the couch? Because lying on the couch won't lead to any results. But before we go further, we need to understand something. What is laziness really? And where does it come from? Even Freud believed that the unconscious mind protects us. It protects us from pain, from stress, from things that feel overwhelming. And sometimes, laziness is one of those protections. When we don't want to do something and can't explain why, we dress it up in nicer words. "I'm not in the right headspace. I'm not in the mood. I just don't have the energy. I'm not motivated." But if you think back to different moments in your life, there were times when laziness couldn't stop you. There was a time when I climbed a fire escape to the 5th floor just to impress a girl and give her a bouquet of flowers. And when I really wanted to get into university, I spent days and nights preparing for exams. Laziness could have shown up there too. And clearly, there must be something that works against laziness. But what if laziness has other reasons? The first one is fear. Fear of failing, or doubting yourself, doubting that you can actually pull it off. There was a time at work when I had to write an important annual report, and that report would decide whether I'd get a promotion and a raise. But instead of preparing early, I kept getting distracted, scrolling through social media, going for snacks, finding anything to do except writing that report. That's when I ran into something called procrastination. I wasn't avoiding the work, I was avoiding the doubt. It's strangely comforting to stay in that illusion. I didn't try, I didn't go, I didn't submit it, which means I didn't fail, which means I'm still okay. And that's where procrastination shows up. It whispers, "Let's wait a little longer. Maybe it'll somehow fix itself." Of course, nothing fixed itself. I eventually started working on the report, but it was too late. I began the night before it was due, and of course I couldn't do it properly. Not the way it needed to be done, and all the consequences followed. And in the end, I got exactly what I'd been telling myself. I can't handle this. I'm not capable. I knew it. But the truth is, every time I felt that wave of procrastination, I should have stopped and said it out loud. "I'm scared. I'm scared to write this report. I'm scared it won't be good enough. I'm scared I'll fail." And then asked myself, What can I do to deal with that fear? That's when you sit down and write a simple plan, even just a rough outline. And suddenly, it doesn't feel impossible anymore. It feels manageable. The second reason for laziness is inner conflict. Freud also talked about this. He described it as a clash between what we want and what we should do, between our inner desire and the outside "you have to" that follows rules, expectations, and social norms. And right at that point of collision, conflict happens. Laziness, in this case, becomes a way to avoid it. Let me give you an example. I had to finish that report. That was the should. But what I really wanted was something completely different. I wanted to lie down, watch TV, eat something sweet. And that constant tension between I want and I have to started wearing me down. In the end, I chose to do nothing. And that frozen state, that pause, felt like relief for a while. As if not choosing was easier than choosing. Eventually, I did make a decision. But by then, the conflict inside me had already grown. The third reason for laziness is an unconscious fear of success. We're used to thinking that what we fear most is failure. But very often, we're actually afraid of success. What if it works? Because when success comes, we often don't know what to do with it. If we do something really well now, then next time, we'll have to do even better. Or maybe we'll be given more work, more responsibility, more expectations. And what if we can't handle that? That's where imposter syndrome shows up. It keeps whispering, "You don't belong here. You just got lucky. Next time you won't pull it off. They'll finally see who you really are." And so we end up doing anything just to avoid doing the actual work. Once again, we block ourselves. We stop ourselves from taking action and getting any kind of result. To support yourself in that moment, it's important to pause and say this clearly. Success is not a final destination. It's not the end of the road. It's just part of the journey. It brings new opportunities. It makes us stronger, more experienced, and it helps us grow. Another reason for laziness is an existential crisis. In his book, Man's Search for Meaning, psychotherapist Viktor Frankl wrote about something powerful. He survived a concentration camp himself, and he noticed something. The people who survived were the ones who had a reason. Some dreamed of going back home. Some held on to a simple goal, just waking up the next morning. When we don't have a goal, we don't understand why we should even move. Why get up? Why try? Why fight laziness or even try to manage it? So if you recognize yourself in this state, maybe this is the moment to start asking deeper questions. Why am I here? What used to bring me joy? What could bring me joy now? And what do I believe I came into this world for? And when you find that meaning, or rediscover the one you lost, laziness almost seems to disappear, because there's nothing left that needs to hold you back. You know where you need to go, and you move toward it, even when you're tired, even when it feels like you don't have the strength. That's internal motivation, that inner fire, and that's what moves us forward. And of course, there's one obvious reason for laziness: lack of energy. And here, it's important to look at your health. Revisit your diet. Get a full checkup. See if you're low on certain vitamins. Because sometimes, it's not psychology. It's biology. By the way, in the previous video, we talked about the small steps method. In short, instead of one big goal, you break it into smaller ones. It's a great method. I really recommend watching that video. The link is in the description. But don't fall into the same trap I did. In my case, I kept making the goals smaller and smaller. Instead of writing for 1 minute, I reduced it to just open the program. Just turn on the laptop. I was shrinking an already small goal even more. And that's not the point. Don't let this method start working against you. I hope you weren't too lazy to watch this till the end. Tell me in the comments, how do you deal with laziness? Your story might help someone else. If this video helped you, subscribe and leave a like. It really supports the channel. And remember, laziness isn't who you are. It's just a signal. See you in the next video.